So imagine that whole Mayan doomsday turned out to be true, but it was a bit late and that happened tomorrow. But let's say that there's a few people that actually survived this whole apocalypse. What do they do? Wait, they hold a demolition derby style race, of course. I mean, what else are you gonna do? Post-Apocalyptic Mayhem, or PAM, pits 8 racers in various cars in a circuit based on a barren wasteland-style theme. There's only really 6 stages. You get a basic, generically named wasteland, a destroyed city, another empty wasteland, an airplane graveyard because every wasteland needs one of those, an abandoned mine, and a supposed arena. The trick to this game is that the goal isn't to finish the first in regards to laps completed. Instead, your goal is to blow up as much shit as possible. The gameplay is pretty simplistic at first glance. As you start, you need to attack the other racers. In order to obtain weapons, you need to drive over the various barrels just laying around. Green barrels recharge your boost, yellow ones give you frontal weapons, red ones give you your rear weapons, and blue barrels will load you up with the side weapons. Each weapon basically has one charge, so when you use it, you'll need to grab another barrel to recharge. The exception is the boost, as it'll automatically replenish slowly, but the green barrels just speed up the process a bit. I'm not even going to beat around the bush here. This game is the worst quote-unquote racing game I've ever played. This for 3 primary reasons, all of which I'm about to discuss. First off, the variety of the game. It leaves a lot to be desired. Most racing games, there's a lot of different modes. You might have your standard exhibition, season, or league play, versus mode, some sort of competitive play with friends, maybe something like a time trial, along with whatever other wacky modes a game might have with its theme, such as Burnout Revenge's road rage races. PAM has, at the time of this review, 7 tracks and maybe a dozen vehicles. As for modes, you have the standard arcade mode and an endurance run where you take on all 7 tracks. Oh, and by 7 tracks, I mean 6 plus the wasteland reskin to look like a winter wonderland. Sadly, this is one of my favorite races just because of the neat snow effects. Anyway, that's all you get. The third option you have is just a high score table where you see all your past results. So let's recap this one a bit. You have 7 tracks, 12 vehicles, and that's about it. Where the hell are the options here? Because of this, the game gets old quickly. The second reason why this game is shit, the weapons. Now, I already mentioned there's 3 basic types. To recap that's the forward, side, and rear attacks. Each vehicle has a different array of equipment, and some of these are useful, and others, not so much. In fact, most of them are not so much. Many of your forward-facing attacks have an extremely short range. In order to kill anyone with them, you'll probably need to use the boost just to get within range and hope that you have some more left, because by then, the enemy will probably just have either sped off or veered out of your way. Your rear weapon could hit or miss. Often the enemy will see it coming and drive away from it, but if you manage to activate the weapon when you're in a narrow corridor, you might actually manage to hit something with it. Your side weapon, although it may not seem like it, is what I would consider to be the best weapon category. Most of these attacks may take a second or 2 to actually activate, but once they do, they typically do quite a bit of damage. These attacks are often comical, such as the kitties exploding teddy bears, or the buses fragmenting pink flamingos? Yeah, the developers tried to implement a bit of humor into the game with some of the weapons, but it doesn't occur often enough, especially when one of the vehicles is actually called Meth Alchemist. Why the fuck would you name a vehicle on a drug and expect it to be good? The Meth Alchemist also fires off imitation power-up barrels that explode and acid bubbles from the front. Sadly, this is one of the better frontal attacks, but overall, this vehicle should really have gotten a different name. Another problem with the weapons is the hit detection. You do get a health meter, but it doesn't really seem to be useful, as most of the weapons will kill you in 1 or 2 hits anyway. But when you attempt to hit the enemies, you better be accurate to a fine degree. Otherwise, your opponent will just race away laughing at you and launching their own counterattacks, which always seem to find your vehicle. I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure your opponent's attacks are more dangerous than your own. It also seems like their attacks have longer durations than your own attacks. I could be wrong with this, but that's at least what it feels like. Because of the weapons, the game often feels boring. If you're in first place lap-wise, you really need to slow down just to allow the other racers to catch up. Otherwise, there's not going to be any additional kills on your part. You're not going to be able to speed up fast enough to start going behind the guy in last place. If you're in last place yourself, you need to speed up for the same reasons. Really, you need to ignore all true race aspects and just remain in the middle of the racers. Because of this, there's no true pace to the game. Getting too far ahead? Slow down to kill. Too far behind? Speed up if you can, but avoid your opponent's rear attacks. In a nutshell, if you're doing really, really well, you'll be destroying all of your opponents, speed up past all of the carcasses, slow down, destroy a few of them, and then repeat. This goes from a racing game to a boring demo derby game that doesn't even come close to games like Flat Out or Twisted Metal. Finally, we move on to the third and final reason why this game sucks. The physics. When in the world would you ever see this? That's right. Never. The physics in this game, especially the gravity, are clearly broken. Jumps aren't too bad, but ramming into a wall at top speed will often launch your vehicle high into the air, causing you to fall way behind. Gravity really feels just way too floaty. Once you hit a large ramp, you may as well go and make a sandwich, because by the time you get done eating it, you may have hit the ground and can resume driving. Oh, and on occasion, there's random deaths too, like areas where you swear you didn't see any obstacle, but you still explode for no reason. It's like, what the hell hit me? And what the hell did I ramp off of? For those three reasons, this game sucks, but that's not to say there's not some redeeming qualities to it that makes it suck a bit less. First of all, the graphics aren't too bad. Sure, I've seen a lot better coming from racing games, but they're still not terrible. The environments thankfully do look the part. The wasteland kind of feels like the canyon in Rage though. In any case, the destroyed city actually looks like it's been nuked and about ready to crumble to the ground. And as for the visual theme, this is easily the best. But because of the jumps located in it, it's easy to fall to your death. And although no one gets a kill point for this, it still counts as a death, and therefore all of your weapons disappear anyway. The arena? Well, yeah, it's in a figure 8, but the problem is nobody really meets up at the center of it. And as I mentioned before, the best part is the snow effects in the winter version of Wasteland. Is it sad that I feel like the best stage is just a frickin' reskin? I think so. The vehicles also have a nice level of detail to them. When they take damage, it's not immediately noticeable, but when you blow up, you can see the charred remains skid along the ground. Or come crashing to the ground in a massive metal, depending on whether you got air when you exploded or not. Nice touch is that if you get killed by the ice attack, your vehicle is covered in frost. It's pretty cool for just those small details. So is there anything else that's really redeeming about this game? Well, the music isn't too bad. Most of it features some pretty heavy rocking tunes, which is just what I want to hear when I'm driving around a desolate area blowing up buses and portable meth labs. No, seriously, I'm a rock guy, so I'm fine with this. But there's also a techno-sounding tune, which, although it's not awful, it's not really my style of music, so I can't say much about it. So I realize I never really mentioned the timer in the bottom left of the screen, so perhaps now is a good time to do so. Basically, as I mentioned before, it's not the amount of laps or physical position that will get you the win, but instead, the amount of kills. That's what that timer is for. Each map gives you just 5 minutes to rack up the kills. It keeps track of your laps, but I have yet to finish a race with more than 1 revolution around the circuit. Not that it really matters, of course. My biggest complaint is that nowhere can you change this timer. Feel 5 minutes is too little or too much? Too bad! You're stuck with it, and if you want more, just play the same track a few times in a row and add up your results. Finally, one last pet peeve of mine. The game's default control scheme shows an Xbox controller. Do you see this? This is what I have plugged into my computer. It's a PS2 controller using a USB adapter. Is it Xbox? Not even close. This is an Xbox controller. I don't own an Xbox, so don't show me the damn Xbox controls by default! Don't get me wrong, there's quite a few PC games that do this, but it really grinds my gears. I'm not about to go buy a fucking Xbox controller just to play PC games. If I wanted to use an Xbox controller for games like this, I'd buy a fucking Xbox. In case you're wondering, which I know you are, this is my brother's controller. I own a PS3, non-Xbox. So don't show me the control scheme for a peripheral I don't have, you assholes! Post-Apocalyptic Mayhem, or PAM, may have mayhem, but its post-apocalyptic part is questionable. The one thing I have to admit is that the game does grow on you a bit, but due to its 3 flaws, it's not something I can play for a long time. Of course, you do have online modes as well, but why should I even bother when I know it's the same stop and go that single player suffers from? Once again, this was a bargain deal on Steam a while back, and that's why I picked it up. You know, it did sound interesting, but after playing it, it's just freaking awful. If you want a demolition style game, go play Flat Out, Twisted Metal, or if you want some racing involved too, one of the Burnout games. Just try to stay clear from this one unless you want to see how much airtime a bus can get when it smacks a wall at 150 miles an hour. Final score? Let's go with 5 out of 10 for this one. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.